Hi, everybody. Yeah, I got my fur clipped. Welcome to the Monday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and maybe not quite so furry bovine. Hey, but even cows have to get a trim every now and then. Not much to say today, to be honest. Michelle's not going to be joining us. This is her surgery week. She went in early for some infusions, and her surgery is scheduled for tomorrow. She promised to keep me informed on what's happening with her, and I will pass along to you guys as soon as I find out. But it's quite about a bunch of extensive surgery that she's having, and we certainly wish her the very best. Tonight, the Cleveland Cavaliers play the Philadelphia 76ers. That ought to be a very interesting game. The Sixers are a vastly improved basketball team, not just Embiid, but they've got some players on that team. Ben Simmons, who's expected to be back after an elbow problem, who many people are saying he's the cream of the crop of the rookies in the league because of his length, his ability to get to the basket, and he's still learning aspects of the game, but his ability to distribute more being said about him at this point than Lonzo Ball. Also, the fact Robert Covington is back to playing decent basketball. He had a horrible year last year, doing better this year, so to be a three-point threat for them. Backup point guard in Philadelphia has been playing real Delhi-esque basketball. He's a real Badger. I've watched them play on a number of occasions. And they have some skills. And playing in Philadelphia, this is going to be a massive environment for fans in Philadelphia to grade the improvement of their team, going against the perceived best team in the East, even though that's not the way it's played out so far this year. But when LeBron's coming to town and the Cavaliers 3 years in a row in the NBA Finals are coming to town, that's the measuring stick, and I think everyone in Philadelphia is looking forward to that. All around good news, 9-1 now. The Eagles are just flying through their schedule, beating up on people. So not that the fans in Philadelphia will be any jollier. They'll still shoot Santa Claus on sight, especially now that they have concealed weapons. But they're in better mood now because they actually have some franchises who are winning. That game is on tonight. I believe it's 7:30. I'm going to have to check my start times on this. 7 o'clock, I'm sorry. Really about the same record for both teams. Cavaliers have won 7 in a row. This will be a real test for the Cleveland Cavaliers. You know, the name of today's program basically is Two Guards, Two Different Stories. Everybody knows the problems that the Cavaliers have had keeping a point guard on the floor. We are getting Iman Shumpert back, but he's not a point guard. Iman Shumpert will be the 10th man off the bench, so I'm happy that he is finding his way slowly but surely out of the rotation, incapable of shooting the basketball, incapable of dribbling the basketball, and hurt all the time. He gives you some defense if need be, if he decides to want to play defense out on the floor. But what I'm really referring to are the 3-point guards we have now. Calderon, who is thrust into a starting position. We have Isaiah Thomas, who is trying to get back. And we have mystery man Derrick Rose. And, you know, what I wanted to point out to everybody is Derrick Rose has a history. And when you have a history, he walked out on the New York Knicks last year. And when that happens, people are going to ask questions about his absence with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Is this precipitated by selfishness? Is it precipitated by his depression? What is it that has created this sudden consciousness in Derrick Rose, who only a matter of weeks ago was saying how thrilled he was to be in Cleveland? Let me tell you a few things about Derrick Rose in case you don't know. One is that his reputation has never been of being much of a team slash guy as far as social guy. He doesn't appear to be one of LeBron's guys. And when I say that, I don't mean like personal friends, but I mean the kind of guy who would fit into a team environment that LeBron is in charge of. Let's be honest about this. He's the only guy who didn't have a handshake. What does it tell you? The fact that both Dwayne Wade and LeBron James during this whole situation have said, this isn't going to hurt the Cavaliers one bit. We just hope that Derek ends up with whatever it is he wants. Would lead one to believe that, A, they never really counted him as part of the team to begin with, and two, that whatever it is, and it's not going to impact the ability of the team. A lot of people noticed that he had some good burst when he was on the floor with the Cavaliers, but the Cavaliers weren't winning with him on the floor. He wasn't sharing the ball. He's only good when he's going to the basket to finish. He doesn't pass particularly well when he's off his feet, especially, and he cannot hit open jump shots. Not even as well as Calderon. But there is something to add to this story that I think you're not going to get anywhere else. And maybe for a reason. I mean, it would be easy for me to just go off on this guy and just say, the lazy son of a bitch is just taking a powder again. And that's what my first impression was. But then I started looking at it differently. What precipitated this whole thing was an ankle injury, an aborted ankle injury, an ankle injury, and now this. Now, he didn't injure the ankle a second time. He simply didn't heal the first time, and this has been the major problem for Derrick Rose in the last 4 years of his career, is that he just is never healthy. What is it that Derrick Rose is doing at this point? Well, for one thing, his career is hanging in the balance. Let's be honest about this, folks. This was the year that Derrick Rose accepted a $2.1 million deal with the Cavaliers to be able to prove himself to another organization to make free agency money. That's down the shitter now because he couldn't even stay healthy for 7 games. With that in mind, what is it he's supposed to do at this point? Well, you know, they're saying he's considering retirement. Let me tell you something. Derrick Rose isn't going to retire. I think that it is far more likely that Derrick Rose is going to get a second, third, and fourth opinion on an ankle and wind up under the knife than he's going to retire. My feeling is that the kind of guy he is and his representation, B.J. Armstrong in this case, not talking to the press would suggest that they don't want to misspeak themselves with so much money laying on the table. And there's that $80 million Adidas deal that hangs in the balance, and there's the rest of his basketball career that hangs in the balance. My belief is if they can convince the world that him going under the knife for an ankle injury is somehow going to retain a luster for the player, that's the strategy they're going to take. Do not be surprised, my fellow pasture heads, if Derrick Rose decides and his people suddenly say that he needs to be operated on. Because it makes all the sense in the world from a financial perspective, somebody who's not willing to give up the ghost. As for me, I gave up the Derrick Rose ghost once I saw the fact that the team, he didn't gel, he didn't fit with this group of players, and he's not the kind of guy who's going to fit into this organization. With that said, the Cavaliers are actually playing halfway decent basketball with Calderon in the starting rotation because he's really, you know, Calderon is at least giving effort. He's trying on the defensive end, and he doesn't do anything that will particularly hurt you. He'll only take a shot if he's wide open. He can knock down a three if he's wide open. He can't do anything off the dribble, and he's intolerably slow. He seems to be playing a little bit better on the defensive side of the ball with this new defensive simplification that the Cavaliers have implemented, which all, to me, Longobardi, the guy who they hired from Phoenix, what a mistake. I mean, the whole terminology and the methodology of his defense never sunk in. And now they're just basically going out and rushing people at half court. I mean, if you look at what they're doing, they're blitzing on their defense and going right at ball handlers and to try to force time off the clock to create longer possessions. It's not that teams aren't scoring against the Cavaliers, and it's not like teams aren't shooting well against the Cavaliers, but the blitzing defense, A, simplifies what the players are supposed to be doing. That's one. And two, it elongates possessions so there aren't as many quick baskets, runouts, things of that nature. It doesn't allow teams to get into their pick and rolls as quickly. And it slows the game down to a degree so that the Cavaliers, even though they're still giving up 50% shooting in a lot of these games in their last 7 that they've won, they're not giving up as many points because the clock is expiring more rapidly with the blitzing defense. That's what I see anyway. As for Isaiah Thomas, he tweeted something that, it's like he's getting ready and all this, but the organization is sticking to its January 1st. I only talk when things pass. I was told Thanksgiving was a target date that Isaiah Thomas personally had. The Cavaliers aren't going to let that happen. He's not ready to play at this point. He doesn't have the wind, the conditioning to play, and he hasn't even commenced 3-on-3, let alone 5-on-5 activities. But with that being said, he's further along in the process than January 1st. My belief is they're going to really get him into up and down shape, and they're going to get him back by the Golden State game because that's what the league really wants. And probably a week earlier than that. So if you look at it, I put him just before Christmas as coming back to the Cavaliers, which really, under the circumstances, is only about 3.5 weeks to wait, and we can survive 3.5 weeks. But the 2 point guards are heading in completely different directions. We're going to get Isaiah Thomas, but I will put money on the fact that you will never see Derrick Rose in a Cleveland Cavalier uniform again. A prediction. And anybody who wants to comment, feel free when this appears in the archive on YouTube, because I was born to be wrong. That's just my right to be wrong. Bronk is saying, nice haircut, Moo. No more quills. Anyway, hope Rose doesn't catch strep in Cleveland. No, he's just not coming back, period. Tony the Calf is saying, what are we talking about basketball for? He figures I'd be talking about Sean Coleman. Only one N in Sean. There should be two. The last N and then the N starting never again. Boy, that guy's terrible. My God. 11 individual penalties on that guy. Do you know how many times he's held? And the thing is that Drango looks worse. It's just horrible. At any rate, so the Cavaliers are playing the 76ers, who everybody on First Take said the 76ers are going to win this game. Stephen A. Smith was pimping. Max Kellerman was pimping. And we'll see what happens. The Cavaliers obviously are, I don't even know if they're the favorite in the game, but there is one thing more I want to talk about regarding the Cleveland Cavaliers. And it's the thing that never gets mentioned. And this is the Big Dick of Truth show, because we aim to give you the big dick of truth. Whether you like it or not, whether you want it or not. God, it sounds like Al Franken now, doesn't it? You're going to get the big dick of truth. All this talk about Kyrie Irving and what a difference maker he's been for the Boston Celtics, and how he has managed to free himself from LeBron James. And how wonderful a thing that is for Kyrie Irving. Well, I got to be honest with you, folks. There is truth in this, and I'm not going to say there isn't. His statistics would show that he's the same Kyrie that he's been when he was in Cleveland. And I will be more than happy to back that up with statistics. And we can go like this. Kyrie stats NBA, and dun, 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 dun. I mean, and if we look at this, and I'm going to compare so far 20 games into the season with last year, which was a good year. Field goal percentage from 47.5% to 48%. Three-pointers, last year he averaged more three-pointers than this season, 2.5 to 2.1. He's shooting 36% from three-point this year, 40% last year, so he's down in that regard. His two-point shot, his mid-range game, which we saw really developing in Cleveland, was at 50.5% last year, at 53% this year, which is a wonderful number. His free throws shooting is always good. He was at 90% last year. He's at 87% this year. His assist totals were 5.8 last year, 5.1 this year. So it's not like he is distributing the ball any better. His average number of points went from 25 to 23 this season. So, I mean, to me, it's fairly much of a wash from a statistical perspective that we're seeing from Kyrie Irving. What he has is a different system, a coach, and guys who have young legs around him and who are playing good basketball. And Jaylen Brown is playing really good basketball, very athletic, playing hard. Tatum is playing very well, hitting a tremendous percentage from three-point range. They're getting help from Aaron Baines, add muscle down low. And recently, Al Horford has been hitting three-point shots. So they've been getting some good contributions from a wide range of players. And Kyrie seems to be the publicity beneficiary of all this. But let me remind you that there's another side to this coin. Hi, Bronk. How you doing?
Too bad, man. Flying solo today, huh?
So yeah, flying solo. This is the way. This is how we roll. There is another side to this, and that's that LeBron has freed himself from Kyrie.
Absolutely.
and you're not hearing this story because the greatest player of all time gets no positive press. It was funny. LeBron was being interviewed about football quarterbacks, and they're asked about quarterbacks. He goes, right now, my favorite guy is Carson Wentz. And I think probably 20 different people would tell you that. Yet the headlines say, LeBron trolls Cleveland. Like somehow Carson Wentz, you know, other teams rejected Carson Wentz too. It wasn't just the Cleveland Browns. And the fact of the matter is, that's not dissing the Cleveland Browns. But LeBron can't get a headline because he's already established as the greatest player in the game. But the truth is, from a statistical perspective, LeBron is having, in his 15th year in the NBA, such a magnificent season so far that it is virtually mind-boggling how well he is performing. I will do the same thing that I just did with Kyrie to show you what the effect is. Let's see if I can find my favorite site. And no, I'm not getting. Wow, that's not what I wanted. I hate it when it fills shit in for me. There we go. All right. If you're looking at last year and this year, last year, which I think people recognize was a pretty damn good year for LeBron James, he's averaging the same number of minutes. For all the talk, he played 37.8. He's played 37.7 this year. Okay, so he's on course to playing, and 37.7 is not the highest number that LeBron has played in his career either. Early in his career, he was playing over 40 minutes a game. As late as 2011, he was playing 39 minutes a game, playing 38 minutes a game in 2013. But this is a very typical number for LeBron James, 37.7. His field goal percentage last year was an amazing 54.8%. And this year it's 58%. The man is shooting 58% from the floor.
There you go, man.
I mean, his three-point shot, his best three-point shooting year was a 40.6% year back with the Heat in 2012, 2013. He's shooting this year from three 42.2%. Never have we seen this before. His two-point shot is at 63%. And these are not just layups, folks. These are two-point fadeaways, you name it. He's shooting them. His free throw percentage, which was a terrible 67.4 last year, is at 76.9%. Nobody wants to hear all of the stuff that LeBron James is doing for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and also averaging 2 more points per game. He's averaging 28.5 points per game, which he hasn't done since 08-09. So to put this in perspective, it is almost like a freaking renaissance season for this guy. And his player rating is so dramatically high in the fourth quarter of basketball games that he is far and away the number one fourth quarter player in the NBA. And
but
that was
plus minus. It's plus minus.
And look, here's the deal. It was Kyrie who they were calling Mr. Fourth Quarter in Cleveland, but we kind of knew that Mr. Fourth Quarter was the beneficiary of having LeBron on the court. Now LeBron is simply asserting himself because he doesn't have Kyrie, and he doesn't miss him one bit. And the team is starting to find a stride without Kyrie Irving. I'm not suggesting that Cleveland is a better basketball team without Kyrie Irving, just pointing out what the national media does not want to talk about, and that's that this is a two-sided coin, and that if Kyrie is happy and doing well in Boston without LeBron, and if there's been some burden lifted from him, the same could be said for LeBron.
Well, what I would ask you about that is that, yes, they're probably not a better basketball team, but to me, they look a happier basketball team, you know, particularly when they come out and they're playing well. So I don't know whether you agree with that, but LeBron seems happier, and if he's happier, the rest of the team follows along.
What I'm seeing is the common things that happen in year two of, you know, like, for instance, I don't think that we saw the best Kyle Korver last year, but year two is different. When you get acclimated and you start understanding where your shots are going to come from on the court and the confidence that you have that you're allowed to pull the trigger, I think Korver is a fourth quarter beneficiary of Kyrie Irving being gone as well, because LeBron can't score every point, although sometimes he comes damn close. He can't do that.
I can remember a few games in which he did.
Yeah, but Kyle Korver, I think, is a real go-to fourth quarter guy, and with a reliable shot off the high screen, and he is a dangerous three-point guy. And that allows him a role that he did not have when Kyrie Irving was with the Cavaliers. What you're seeing as far as the joie de vivre of playing, that's French for the joy of living, of the Cavaliers, is, first of all, they started to win a few games because it was not very pretty early on. I think, second of all, I think that they're getting some of their swag back. And I think third of all, there is a bonding that takes place with a different group of people. And when a family member leaves you of their own volition, free will, that there is a period of grieving and hurt that is associated with this. The selfish prick who leaves you doesn't feel that, okay? But the people who are left behind do. And I think it's an
analysis, by the way.
Yeah, but I think that it is the natural thing that the person who leaves never really looks into the rearview mirror, because they're the selfish ones who are looking forward. And at 25 years of age, Kyrie Irving is the selfish one, like LeBron James was when he was 25 years old. Look, this is the nature. You know, you can't put an old head on young shoulders, and nobody's trying to. But I think it took a little while for the "oh, woe is me" thing, and this, do my armpit smell? Is my breath bad? What is it that made Kyrie Irving leave us behind? Is now over with. The shock is dealt with, and now we're starting to see signs of the team coming out of this. We're starting to see Jay Crowder bury three-point shots. We're starting to see even Calderon looking more comfortable on the court. We're starting to see things that, the second unit especially, we're seeing Dwayne Wade taking charge of the second unit and utilizing Jeff Green, utilizing the weapons that he has out on the floor. And the passes are crisp, the back cuts are crisp, and there is a dual kind of conformity going on with this team. The starting five, which has been changed so many times, is starting to feel comfortable, but it's that second unit, and it's almost like a separate team that they've taken pride in themselves, that they're going to come in and they're going to win their minutes on the floor. And you can see that Dwayne Wade is the guy who is leading that charge. And I think
it took a few weeks for them to do that too. I mean, Wade looked hesitant like at the beginning of the season to me. But yeah, I completely agree that he's now a leader of this unit. So, and Jeff Green, man, I love Jeff Green, the way he plays and everything. I think he's my favorite player right now.
He adds an athletic component to a fairly stale, non-athletic second team. But the thing is
what an upgrade he is on Richard Jefferson. Reggie Jefferson, whatever.
Richard was correct. But
Reggie.
And I liked RJ.
Everybody loved him. He'll have a great career in broadcasting or something.
Yeah, but
lovely guy.
A guy like Dwayne Wade is just starting to get his legs. He came in looking kind of doughy to me, as far as a little overweight, slow.
Yeah,
and now he's starting to cruise to the rim and get through the lane. He still isn't hitting that fadeaway like we want him to, but his legs are getting stronger, and I do believe that will start once he gets his legs more under him. But the thing that's that I'm most appreciative of is that it isn't just 6 or 7 guys who have the vibe and the rest are towel wavers on the bench. We've got guys who are contributing. Now it's going to be 10 deep when you add Shumpert. You literally are going to have a 10 deep at times rotation, and people who are playing together, and at least 9 of them. I'm not convinced about Shumpert, but it's fun to watch a team play as a team. So, and that's going to be the way they beat people. It's going to have to be rowing in the same direction.
Yeah, I got questions for you. As you know, I do live in a cave. I don't live in America. If you can fill me in on the injury status of everybody on the Cavs, because I think Tristan Thompson's so important to this team, and I'd like to see him come back as soon as possible. How is everybody else doing?
Tristan Thompson, I'm not hearing a damn thing about him, and that is unusual. The injury that he had, which we can assume was a grade 2 tear of the calf muscle, is likely a 4 to 6 week injury. I don't know how long he's been out now.
A while.
Yeah. But the thing here is that Kevin Love needs help because, Kevin Love, poor Kevin, I mean, he can't guard Embiid. I mean, this is
no.
And the thing that makes Kevin Love a great team player is that he's giving it a go. He's trying to do this for the team, but it is clearly taking him away from some of the things that he likes to do. And it's wearing him down. And it's also increasing the number of fouls that he commits and the minutes that he's on the floor. And I know he wants Tristan Thompson to come back just about as much as anybody does. But, the question is, with Ironmen, whose Ironmen records fall, you wonder if all the bad shit is about to begin for Tristan Thompson. You never know. But I've heard nothing in that regard. Isaiah Thomas, I still believe 3 weeks into December, that's when he's going to come back.
I'm worried about him. I don't know why. One thing I am worried about Isaiah Thomas with him is that when he comes back, our team's going to try to foul the shit out of him so that he gets re-injured, or they're going to try to injure him in a particular way.
Well, here's the issue with Isaiah Thomas. You're going to get hurt defensively because he's short, he's small, and he is a great fourth quarter player along with LeBron and along with Korver. So you will have potentially explosive fourth quarters with these men on the floor. They're not going to play him huge minutes to begin with, but when he's ready to come back, and like I say, once you see him banging 3-on-3, and he hasn't started that yet, but once the 3-on-3s begin, then it's safe to say that he's probably about 3 weeks away. And I'm putting it down that he's going to start 3-on-3s next week, that he's going to be back before Christmas. And that's how I'm kind of, dealing with that. Shumpert is back tonight.
All right. What was wrong with him other than mentally?
A knee problem there. That is like a knee tendonitis, which is something that can flare, and who knows?
Everybody our age has that shit.
That's right. That's right. So, who knows how long he's going to last before he's, injured again. And with Shumpert, you come to expect that. You can't put him in a regular rotation because, honestly, he's held together by paper clips. I don't see him as being a long-term answer for the Cavaliers. But these are the injuries you deal with, and Derrick Rose, I've already predicted on this program that he's gone.
I don't like him anyway. I mean, he obviously didn't fit in.
No, it's the right. It's a good try. It's a good try. Front office, you give it a good try. But
I think what was he, league minimum or something, or what do they have to pay?
$2.1 million, and the fact is, it was worth the risk because you don't know what you got.
That's Dan Gilbert's money too, so fuck it.
That's right. He doesn't need more anyway.
No, not at all.
As it is, he's tapping into the gambling diseased people in Cleveland. So I mean, my God, I think that he's pretty well set in that regard. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be a tough night because Calderon can't guard Ben Simmons and Kevin Love can't guard Embiid. They're throwing out 6'10" and 7-foot people against a vertically challenged Cavalier group. The Cavaliers are going to have to knock down threes to have a chance and force this game into the half court and just try to gut it out. It's going to be a tough one for the Cavaliers.
Is this a national game?
I don't know. I don't know. All I know is that they're just coming off an 130-point scoring barrage against Orlando. And they're gaining confidence as they go. So you never know what's going to happen until the game begins. But it's going to be a challenge defensively.
Ooh, it is. Well, I could see it on the big screen. So yeah.
Oh, who's showing it? NBA TV or?
I can't tell by this, unfortunately. But yeah, sometimes they pick up Austin Carr and Sports Time Ohio. But yeah, it's on my. It's on my TV network here.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm going to look up and see. Let's see if there's any notice of what the hell is this? All right, J.R. Smith is starting. He had a family member pass away. His cousin, I think, was shot, and that's kind of a sad thing. But I'm not getting I'm not getting any TV information as far as the game is concerned.
We'll definitely get off the air at bang on the hour so we can go watch it. So I don't get to see every game, obviously.
Yeah. So one way or another, the Cavaliers are on to 7 o'clock, and I always catch it on Fox Sports Ohio, so I can laugh my ass off at Austin Carr going around in circles and really saying nothing. Now, the other thing is this Greg Schiano thing. The defensive coordinator of Ohio State. Well, it's part of this witch hunt that we're in. You're tarnished forever. He was part of the Penn State situation. Not that he was implicitly involved, but he was on the coaching staff of that team. Well, and it seems that anybody who shook the hand of Jerry Sandusky might as well be a pedophile. And the people at the University of Tennessee, when they wanted to hire him, the vultures descended. And the thing about college campuses today, always has been, is if you're looking for the absolute political correctness in society, it's happening on college campuses. I see Tony the Calf is joining us too. Hi, Tony.
I'm not naked. I have a shirt on.
Oh, they're kind of beigey colored there.
Macho Man Randy Savage. Can you dig it?
Oh, is he still alive?
No.
Oh, he died in 2011, Brock.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
He actually died. He was driving on the highway and he had a stroke and drove into a tree.
That's true. He did. That's exactly how the Macho Man. Yeah. He thought he would jump off a turnbuckle or something, but no, he ran into a goddamn tree.
That's savage, man.
Yeah, but the whole Schiano thing is just, again, it's all run amok. Everything in our society right now is run amok. And
the whole Schiano thing is just Tennessee fans mad that they can't get John Gruden.
Well, I mean, Tennessee fans, look, I don't like Greg Schiano. Let me be the first one to say.
Cheyonne's a bit of a prick, really.
He's a dick.
Yeah,
he's a terrible coach, too.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be fighting for him either. And he has a history of sorts. But to bring up and regurgitate his years at Penn State seems a little lame to me under the circumstances. But that's the times that we're living in. So the Board of Regents wanted to hire him, and all the pressure has made them basically rip up the contract and throw it away. So, again, every time I run into this situation, I think of the University of Nevada at Las Vegas, and I think of Jerry Tarkanian, and I think about Tark the Shark, who was probably the most corrupt of all of the illegal recruiters. He had a 2% graduation rate at UNLV, which was a commuter college that was bringing in African-American talented kids who never got their degrees and ended up like Gerald Patio, janitors. Okay. And that's a fact. I'm not making fun of Gerald Patio. I'm just simply saying he was a 3-point legend at UNLV, and he ended up working as a janitor because he never got any more education. That was the legacy of Jerry Tarkanian. And by the time Tark's rule over at UNLV went away, the first thing that the Board of Regents wanted to do was to bring in a credible guy, and they brought in old Rolly Massimino, right?
Coach Mass, yeah.
And look, if you want a clean recruiting coach, accept the fact
you're going to be shit.
You're going to lose. That's exactly right. I mean, UNLV fell off the map. They were never going to be anything ever again because
it was off the map.
Yeah, I mean, just nowhere to be found. So I don't know if they're looking to hire an angel at the University of Tennessee, which I find hard to believe. It would look that they're, and the funny part of it is they couldn't get it right with Schiano. And God, it sounds a lot like Jimmy Haslam to me. And he's in both places. He's in both fucking places.
Do you think that Sandusky thing's being used as some sort of backhanded excuse for hiding some other reason why they're not hiring him?
I don't know.
That would be what I would think.
Like I put it, I think they're just mad that they couldn't get their famous alumni John Gruden to come coach the university, and they're all sad, just like all snowflakes are these days. Can't get their way, so they complain.
What I'm really curious about is whether the potential hire could not withstand scrutiny. And you always, because it's odd for a team, listen to me, they're not a school, they're a fucking team. And that's the problem.
It's pro program.
It's a fucking school, but we look at them as a fucking team.
Oh, yeah, we've had this discussion before. I mean, college athletics is about as insincere a sporting regime as you can get anywhere in the freaking world.
Yeah, it bothers me, but again, they folded their tent awful quick on this. I mean, it didn't take very long after the announcement leaked that, we're going to hire this guy, that they tore up the contract. It makes me wonder. Yeah, it makes me wonder if there was something else that wouldn't have been able to pass scrutiny, and that they felt that he was lame ducked, and they just have to go on and conclude a search in a different direction because it wasn't gonna make it with Shiano.
Yeah, I don't think he fits at Ohio State. I'll be glad to see him go if he does go. I don't think he fits there at all.
Well, I don't know if he fits anywhere, but it's obvious. I mean, it's like I have complaints about this all of the time because, yesterday's post-game show, people are saying, "Oh, come on, Moohead, who are you going to hire? Who are you going to hire in the front office? I want Peyton Manning." And it's like, in order your fucking Papa John's in Denver and blow me. Exactly. I mean, I don't need, or in Indianapolis, blow me. I mean, just because he can run a pizza parlor doesn't mean that he can run a football team. And I get really tired of these names, either because he was a great player, he's going to be a great front office guy, which makes no sense whatsoever.
Dwight Clark.
Yeah, I mean, think of all the baseball players who are the greatest baseball players. Ted Williams was one of the worst managers.
He was horrible. He was a dreadful manager.
Washington Senators, one of the worst managers that you could imagine. And there's a very long list of guys who were former major league stars who couldn't make it as managers. Yeah. So there's no logic to that. But I have to hear that shit all the time. And, as far as coaches are concerned, it's the same thing. But it's the retreads. Chip Kelly is back. I mean, wasn't it just yesterday? I mean, that the selfish prick left Oregon to make his way into the NFL? What a cocksucker he is, yet he's still rewarded with a UCLA job. Now, it's very hard for me to stomach this, really. There are people out there who are qualified to get an opportunity to become real, honest-to-God, good head coaches, and instead, we keep dredging up these old names, and that's why guys like Shiano will get a job, is because they had a job. And this is what I'm against with the Browns, because we did this with Eric Mangini, who had no success. He had no success where he was previous coming to Cleveland, got a job because he had a job. And how many guys do we have like this who, we're bringing them up from being offensive coordinators, yet we end up with Chudzinski. And how Chudzinski got the job, I will never know, because he was a UT Rocket. I have no idea. But this is what we do over and over again in Cleveland. It's either let's get a guy who was an offensive coordinator, and I can't even remember all the names of the guys that we had as offensive coordinators who were terrible. And not one of them became a head coach anywhere else. None of them became a head coach anywhere else. Yet we keep hiring these people and promoting them.
Well, Kyle Shanahan's the coach in San Fran. But
I'm shocked that we keep doing the same thing over and over again. But it's like this. So we got Hugh Jackson. I mean, it's like there is. It's like a Powerball drawing with only 3 balls.
Yeah,
in the till. Going around.
Paraphrase your rants from recent times about the Browns and the basically there needs to be integrity from the top of the organization all the way down. So if Haslam doesn't have any integrity, which is very doubtful whether he does. That's where the problem starts at. But if he's going to hire Jackson who just lies at the drop of the hat at every opportunity, I mean, we need some honesty in Cleveland, man.
Right. And you look at the candidates this year that are being talked about as the hotbed coordinators that might get a new job, another head coaching job. The two top guys, defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz from the Eagles and Pat Shurmur from the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, well, it's Shurmur. And what happens is a guy like Shurmur, hides in the weeds for a team that's winning, and now all of a sudden the winning is somehow rubbing off on him. General Dog.
I tell you, is Shurmur responsible in any way for the Vikings winning any games this year?
He has made Case Keenum look like a pretty damn good quarterback. I'll give him that. I still think a lot of our success is defense oriented, but hey, the offense looks pretty fucking good, and Pat Shurmur calls the plays for the offense.
Well, yeah, General Dog and Ziffles, Ziffles mentioned Kyle Shanahan like you did, and then Romeo Crennel and Butch Davis. Well, Butch Davis was probably the highest, biggest name.
Yeah.
The Browns, and I don't think that you could have found anybody who would have said that Butch Davis was a bad hire predicated on his college history. So, again, that happened some time back, but at least there was a reason to hire him.
What he did when he had the job
was poisoned in Cleveland.
One at a time, please. What?
Go, Tony.
I said what he did when he got the job. Now that's another story for another time.
Well, but I mean, again, but if you hire somebody who's a big time college coach, I can get that. It doesn't mean that Lou Holtz was successful with the New York Jets. I understand, but he's a name, and I can understand why you would do it. Romeo Crennel is a slug, and we brought him back twice, for God's sakes, that fat fuck. And I didn't understand that. It's and
the well is truly poisoned in Cleveland. When Butch Davis was hired, people didn't realize all over the world that Cleveland was such this curse of death place.
Well, no, I mean,
it is now.
I mean, what was it? It was a season where we made the playoffs, and Butch Davis had some success, but there were obviously some other issues with Butch Davis. But you could say that compared to where we are now, those were the halcyon glory days compared to where we are now.
We'll talk about how we went from a 6-10 team to a 0-16 team, because that's the real scandal.
Well, I mean, you keep making changes with bad people, and you make a series of bad draft decisions, and your team gets progressively worse. And honestly, ever since the Browns left, and I'm not going to sit there and say, "Oh, woe is us," because we got an NFL team back, but ever since Modell uprooted and went to Baltimore, we never had an owner. We had Al Lerner, who was around long enough to die.
Yep.
And he was the silent partner who had absolutely, behind the scenes guy. And he was the foot in the door. He was the guy they needed to get the franchise deal done for Cleveland. All right. His son was an inheritor who had no business being in the NFL.
Or in business, for that matter.
Yeah. So you look at the ownership of the Browns since they came back, and that is the turbulence.
Yeah.
Because there is nobody who qualifies as being a steadying influence. We've had people who really are not quality owners, and I don't know what they're looking for from this team, whether they're looking for tax shelters or what it is, but they're not looking at putting a better product on the field. And they don't know how to get there. They don't know how to do it. The instability starts with with bad ownership, and it just rolls downhill from there. The decisions that have been made, front office decisions, warring factions within the Browns for so many years in the front office and the coaching staff. It's just it has progressively just become the poison fruit. I mean, it's.
Well, I put my finger on that era when we had Joe Banner here, and that's really when it started. The cliff sort of opened up into a gigantic chasm. And
I believe my name was invoked.
We were a halfway credible team that could actually win one game out of a year in the division at that point.
Why are you bringing up my name? Why?
It's your fault, Joe.
That my face is stuck like this?
Exactly.
That's my fault? It's not my fault.
Absolutely your fault.
What smells? Tony?
Yeah, Holmgren and Banner. I mean, those are the two people I blame.
I don't know, man.
The most.
Seriously, the whole you actually look more like a fucking Nazi when you do that.
It's like a Nazi Laurel and Hardy over there. Oliver Hardy.
Oh God! Don't even go there, Tony. Yeah, the Holmgren thing is a classic example of let's hire a name who's not qualified to do a specific job.
He just wanted to ride around the golf cart and make loads of money.
Holmgren showed up for work at 12 o'clock and left at 2:30.
But, it started with Dwight Clark. I mean, Dwight Clark had no business. I mean, he made a great catch. He's an iconic guy in San Francisco. Just like his little sidekick, the little old wine drinker me was. I mean, you're looking at a team that was San Francisco based, and they're coming to Cleveland. They had absolutely, and I always said that there are kisses of death. Yeah. And Cleveland Browns Stadium, that cold,
that's a
barren
horrible place.
That was a kiss of death. I mean, you could have a lousy team historically like the Cubs and a great Wrigley Field to play in, and people come and watch. But, there's lots of excuses not to go to Cleveland Browns Stadium because it's a desolate and barren and cold place. Yeah. And that's the best they could come up with. So there have been so many mistakes made from the get-go. And, every week we're seeing a new way to lose. And, it's just...
we're making an argument for the franchise to be disbanded. I mean, is it that dead, man? Should we just put a stake in it?
No, I believe that the fans deserve better than that, and the fans deserve that we keep trying to hire good people to do the job. I don't, to me, the fans shouldn't be left holding the bag on this. They want a professional football team in Cleveland. I get that. The only way you're going to get a professional team is to hire people who are quality people.
The league's got to step in here.
That's what I've said for several years, Tony.
Please.
I know the league did try to step in with Holmgren, but it failed. But something's got to be done here. I know that you guys are getting a couple. You guys are going to get at least 2 number 1 overall picks, if not 3, if this shit keeps up. It's a start, but. They got to get a Bill Polian, for example, or somebody like that who knows fucking football and give him charge of players and let him pick a damn roster.
Well, it was like the 76ers who we're going to see tonight. Yeah. I mean, Sam Hinkie was the guy who every year turfed the regular season. And he
then drafted 76,000 big men. Now you see why Jalil Okafor, who's a number 2 overall pick, can't get on the court.
Well, it was a shit burger for the fans is what it was. I mean, they had to sit there and watch the worst basketball you could imagine. Now, some of these young guys who they drafted, just by the sheer volume of the number of people they drafted, have come around. But people forget, and they're saying, maybe Sam Hinkie wasn't such a bad guy. Do you know that he could have had Kristaps Porzingis?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, he could have. I mean, could you imagine the 76ers with what they have Because it's not like they drafted somebody else who became successful. They could have had Porzingis. They could have had Embiid. They could have had all of these guys, Ben Simmons, all on the same fucking team. They would have had a big three just like that.
That's an all-star team right there, man.
When you miss draft picks, man, it can hurt your ass bad. And the 76ers were the worst team for how many years running?
And
the league,
Pistons.
well, the league put Colangelo in. I mean, the league tried to do what they could. They got Hinkie the hell out of there. That's what the NFL is going to have to do in Cleveland, is to sit down with Jimmy Haslam and say, look, there's two ways this can go. Either you sit down and you take our people's approach and you do what you're supposed to do, or you sell the team. And the fact of the matter is that they were instrumental, the league, in getting Randy Lerner to sell the team, because
Well, can they do that? Can they get Haslam out and force him out?
Yeah, they can, in a manner of speaking. Okay,
let's hear this.
Just like they did with Sterling in Los Angeles,
right,
in the NBA. Yes, there are ways, just like they did with Ted Stepien in Cleveland. Yes, there are ways that you can get people out of the picture.
Yeah, if Haslam gets convicted of all this fraud with Flying Pilot J and all that, there's going to be an investigation into his league practices, and you could very well see Haslam, selling the team based off of that, if anything does come up.
Well, I mean, I don't know if any of that's going to happen, but what I do know is that the league covets its franchises.
Yeah.
And if there's somebody going rogue in a bad direction, the league can't sit indefinitely and wait for a turnaround. Although we do have a situation like Sacramento, where the league clearly doesn't give a flying fuck if Sacramento fell off the coast and just plunged into the Pacific Ocean. So you don't know. You don't know. Maybe it's enough for Cleveland. They're just, the NFL is like, fuck it, But the team, it's become an embarrassment, and it's not just an embarrassment to Cleveland fans. It's just an embarrassment to the league that they're inept the way they are. And I think
what must be really infuriating that I never hear about in the media is that all of those AFC teams in the South and the West and the East, they're all at a disadvantage against the Steelers and Ravens and Bengals every year, because all those teams get to play the Browns twice and get 2 easy wins on their record, whereas like teams like New England, Buffalo, and Oakland that may not even play the Browns at all.
Look, the Eagles were a bad team for a lot of years. They got it turned around. It can be done, but they're going to need to be pointed in the right direction. I don't think Jimmy Haslam has a clue, because based on hiring DePodesta and Sashi Brown, he doesn't know how to put an organization together, and that's going to be the biggest singular reason why the league needs to step in. It was no different than when Gordon Gund was put into the position as the owner of the Cavaliers. Everybody knows that it was like, here we have a guy who's willing to take on the financial burden, but he does not know the NBA. So we're going to get Wayne Embry for him. Okay. The NBA reached out and said, here's a guy who's a qualified general manager for you. And
great.
Yeah. And here's, a head coach who can do this for you.
Or when LeBron James and they allowed all that bullshit in Miami to be orchestrated, here's Kyrie Irving. Here's, granted, Anthony Bennett, but here's multiple number 1 overall picks.
Well, sure. The league directs traffic. Sure. But
Anthony Bennett. Boy,
you have owners who are all reliant upon one another, in essence, to keep the popularity of the game high. And when somebody is really fucking the drill up, there is a way to get rid of them. I just don't know at what point the NFL is going to sit back and say enough is enough. I don't know. But here in Cleveland, the fans have said enough is enough. They're not going to watch the games. I wouldn't be surprised if a little birdie tweets into the ear of Jimmy Haslam, or has it already, and starts directing some things into Cleveland.
See, this is why I don't think you'll ever see Josh Gordon suspended again. I think the league realizes that he's most likely, other than Myles Garrett and maybe Agba, and maybe Kaiser, the only guy on that roster with any semblance of talent that's got a lot of years left. And I think they're going to do all the league can to keep him on the straight and narrow.
Yeah, he's got to do something himself.
Guys,
I got to get out of here. It's 7 o'clock, man. I got to get out of here. But guys, as always, I appreciate you guys jumping in and joining me. All right, guys. Let's hope the Cavaliers get the job done tonight.
Good luck to Michelle. She has her surgery on Wednesday.
I'm going to inform everybody how she's doing. But yeah, we all wish her well. Thanks, guys.
Farewell.
Bye-bye. Thanks a lot, everybody, for tuning into this edition of Moohead Radio. Back again sometime this week, probably Friday, maybe even before if I'm in a really good mood. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.